I started to tell people, it was like this huge light bulb moment for me, because rather than feel the judgment I thought I was going to feel, or feel, I don't know what else I expected to feel at the time, but I just didn't feel safe, and I felt too vulnerable. And
Mm-hmm.
next thing you know, it was like I opened this giant can of worms, and everyone was raising their hands and like, oh yeah, like me too. Like something is happening like that in my life. And it got really evident to me how we're all hiding behind,
Yes.
our glass houses,
Mm-hmm.
and how healing it is to be honest and authentic and vulnerable, and how much we need that from one another, and how we're robbing each other of truth when we hide.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Medeiros.
And I'm Colleen Hungerford, and this is We're Doing This Right, right? A podcast for the whole woman, mind, body, soul, and business.
It's humor infused, as real as it gets, inspiring, and you'll walk away with real usable tools for life and business.
If you love what you're hearing, please share with a friend, subscribe so you'll never miss an episode, and rate and review whenever you listen.
So find your earbuds, lace up your walking shoes, or cozy up with a beverage of your choice. It's time to dig in. Oh, hello, Doing It Writers, the Pod Squad, the Inspire herd.
Your herd of sheep, your herd of goats. No wonder
There's
you
more. There's some fresh goats on the herd here this week. Of
more
course.
babies.
More
my
babies. They won't stop.
Your goats are very active, Cheryl.
Ugh, they're
They're
killing
very
me.
active.
Well, we got rid of all of our males recently, so we'd have no more babies. And then our tenant's male busted out of its cage and knocked up my entire herd. And so here we are
You
again.
must have a very attractive herd.
They're mine.
Okay, enough about the goats. Okay, we have a guest with us today. Cheryl, do the honors.
All right. Today we have Annmarie Chereso. She's a conscious relationship coach, speaker, and author of the #1 international bestseller anthology, The Perfectly Imperfect Family, and the children's book, Little Seed's Journey. She's devoted to helping women lead empowered, fulfilling lives from the inside out. So she's right on brand for us.
Oh my God, we love this. Is everything we love.
I'm
Welcome.
done.
We're so excited to have you.
So
Tell me all the things. Let's go. Start at conception. Tell me your whole life story. How did you get here?
Well, I'm super distracted by the horny goat, but
They are horny.
Yeah, circle of life, I suppose. Here we go. Tell us really about you. Tell us the real deal. Tell us what we want to know and what you want everyone to know about you.
so that just feels so loaded.
I know. It's great. It's great. But it can mean anything. So
Yeah.
tell us how you got into the space that you're in now. We would
Yeah.
love that.
I'll just start with where I am right now. I'm, midlife woman navigating things like motherhood as a midlife person, as a divorced person, in a blended family situation, navigating my own body and my own way of being in the world in relationship to all those things and people and stuff. So, that's where I landed today, right? I live in Chicago. I'm married for the second time. My husband is 14 years older than I am. So we navigate. That's a fun and interesting journey to be navigating. We've navigated addiction issues. We've navigated betrayal. We've navigated blending a family of 9. We've navigated 3 ex-spouses. I mean, life has been pretty juicy, like ripe
Sounds juicy.
with evolutionary lessons, I would say.
Yeah, but also very relatable and very normal, if you will, for most people, for a lot of people, right? Like, although 9 kids is like so impressive. We were saying before the show, I have this tagline that I say, like, having 3 kids in LA was like having 9, and you were like, well, I have 9 kids, and I was like, holy shit, that's real. That's no joke. So that is like a whole, basically, like, super parent genre in its own. But tell us a little bit about how all of that life stuff works with how you're working with women now.
This thing that you said, it's all really relatable. So 22 years ago. I was pregnant with my third child in my first marriage. And I found out my husband was being unfaithful, and that, like, when I was 6 weeks pregnant. And so
Mm.
that whole pregnancy was just like a disaster, and life was pretty turbulent back then. But I didn't tell anyone. I
Oh, okay.
kept it a secret for many, many months because behind the scenes, I was sort of, do you guys remember Fred Flintstone? Did you ever, was that
Yeah.
Yeah.
thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, his feet like under the car trying to make the car go. That's pretty
Yeah.
much how I felt like I was living my life at that point. And I find out I'm 6 weeks pregnant. I find out, he's having this affair and he is out, like out.
Yeah.
And I just went into a complete panic, and I'm like, this isn't happening. This isn't happening. And we're going to fix this. And I'm going to make sure this works. And I was just in this whole thing. And my life just kept unraveling and falling apart, no matter how desperately I thought, I can control this. I can fix this. I can get this back on track. And I didn't want to tell anyone anything because I'm like, I don't want anyone judging. I don't want anyone, getting involved in this.
Yeah.
And then it got to a point where it's like, I just can't not tell anyone anymore. And he was moving out when I was 8 months pregnant. And I'm like, well, I sort of got to tell people, like people got
Yeah.
nervous thing. So
People are going to start to
they
notice.
Right.
might notice. So when I started to tell people, it was like this huge light bulb moment for me, because rather than feel the judgment I thought I was going to feel, or feel, I don't know what else I expected to feel at the time, but I just didn't feel safe, and I felt too vulnerable. And
Mm-hmm.
next thing you know, it was like I opened this giant can of worms, and everyone was raising their hands and like, oh yeah, like, me too. Like, something is happening like that in my life. And it got really evident to me how we're all hiding behind,
Yes.
our glass houses,
Mm-hmm.
and how healing it is to be honest and authentic and vulnerable, and how much we need that from one another, and how we're robbing each other of truth when we hide. So that became really, really evident to me. And, when I think back, the way I was raised, it was sort of like the phone would ring in our house. I don't know if you guys had a similar experience. And the first question my parents would ask is, "Are you home?" Like, it means like, I'm going to pick up the phone, and am I lying to the person at the other end of the line
Oh.
Oh.
or not? And, my dad had this job where people were constantly, he worked for the city and people had a lot of access to him. So he needed boundaries, he needed to have boundaries. Um, But rather than say something really honest, like he's not available right now, which was a really simple answer, it was he's not home. So it really started to craft this way of being in the world around, like, when I can't be honest, I hide behind a lie, something that's not true. And that's what I'd been doing. I was hiding behind the truth of what was really going on in my life. And I think we all do that to some extent or another.
Hmm. Well, and as you're talking about this, I'm thinking about the dichotomy, if you will, of like there's a difference between lying and being private, and
Yes.
that's the same. Like, are you not home? Are you home or not? Versus like they're not available.
Yeah.
Like that's that difference between like being private and lying. It's like you didn't have to tell everybody what happened in your marriage. That was your business, and that's yours to figure out how you navigate and how you tell. But like, yeah, you can't then lie. You can, but like, are you going to go so far as to lie and say like, oh no, we're fine, we're great, we're bringing the baby home, like, oh, it's the difference of like just being private. You don't have to share everything. It
Yeah.
is
Well,
your
so
life and you get to choose. But
lying is being out of integrity with the truth, right? And so when you're out
Mm-hmm.
of integrity with your truth, you're starting to disconnect from your authentic self, which actually causes you harm. And it's just messy. Like, what do you mean you're not home? Your
So
car's
messy. Yeah. I literally see you. I see you home. And now with like people sharing locations and things like that, like that's a whole other thing. When you were saying this idea about like, when you shared with people this thing that felt very vulnerable or private to you, so many people can relate. I think in my experience, when you do that, when you share something about yourself that feels vulnerable or whatever, it's almost like there's this sigh of relief from the other person, that they're like, oh, okay, yeah, I have that issue too. Or, oh, I thought you were this one way, and
Yes.
but you're just like me. And
Yes.
I love that, that's something that Cheryl and I, we try to be, very authentic with who we are. And we put a,
Feels like my whole personality just to make people
we,
feel like, oh, okay, I can talk about this.
Yeah.
yeah. And I think like the more that we have women out there, and I think it's important for women because there is this perception that we have to be, you know, this standard. And a lot of times that standard is something we set for ourselves or we create for ourselves, right? Like, I need to look a certain way, I need to act a certain way, I need to present myself in a certain way in order to be, of value, or in order to be looked at how I want to be perceived. And Cheryl and I have had this conversation frequently, especially we both work in our other jobs in real estate, right? And we're going into people's homes and they feel very nervous about us going into their homes sometimes. And, oh, I had somebody say, like, oh, is your kitchen counter always perfect? And I was like, girl, please don't even and I literally sent her a video of my kitchen counter. Like, nah, man, like this kid stuff's everywhere, the cups everywhere, all the stuff. And when you do that, it just is such a breath of fresh air for everybody else. So I can just relate to that so much. And it's so needed in our lives always, not just now, but like always.
Always. Yeah, I think it more and more, right? With social media and AI and all that's happening out in the world, I see it in my kids. Like more and more, it's harder to be really honest and authentic. Like my girls walk around with like pimple patches. They're in their 20s, but like you can't have a pimple on your face, and God forbid you have a wrinkle or something. And even I feel it. So I think having the awareness that you're feeling it and still trying to carve out this, first of all, like we all want some ideal life, that we're all
Sure.
striving towards that.
Sure.
So honoring that that's true for yourself, and at the same time going, it's really messy getting there and trying to figure it out, and really redefining what ideal is for me, for you, for all of us. It's different. It's just different. So we
I
got
kind of like the pimple patches though, because like I think when I was in my 20s and teens, I would have never worn it. This is but like metaphorically speaking, like you really had to cover that up with
yep.
makeup, right? And now it's like, yeah, I've got this zit and I put a pink star on my face and I'm walking out. Like I think there is an evolution to that that's almost like a little bit more authentic. Now, we're not there, right? We still don't want the pimples on our faces, but I
Oh no,
think
my girls are transparent, so you can't see them.
oh, have you not seen the ones that are like yellow stars or
I
pink
don't know.
stars?
I've not
Oh
seen
my
them.
gosh. Those I see them on like teenagers, like they'll go to school with these like bright and they look like stickers on their faces. And for me, I was like, "Oh my god, that is so cool,"
Yeah,
because
that's cool.
before
Own it.
I would have yeah, you're owning it. You're like, "Yeah, I got this zip, but I got this cute sticker."
Yeah.
Where if I was, when I was in high school, it was like, "How much concealer can I put on this thing?" And then how much makeup can I, and then you end up looking wild because you got so much makeup rather than just being like, yeah, I got a zit and we've all got zits because we're all going through puberty and we're all in high school together, right?
Because everybody's body changes and everybody goes through this at some point and at varying degrees. Yeah, it's normalizing it is nice, but I mean, yeah, the highlight reel definitely is making it hard for people to be themselves and like own whatever it is going on. Like as you were saying, like aging gracefully, for instance. Like
Mm-hmm.
I have been doing it and I've always been of the mindset, oh, I'm not going to get Botox because I have autoimmune conditions and my doctor advises against it and da 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 da. And then lately I've been thinking like, well, maybe just my 11s.
Uh-huh.
Like what? How am I getting here? Like I have been so fine with it all this time. And then the more that I'm like, everybody's doing it. I should do it. No, I don't have to do it. I can just age however the fuck my face is going to age.
It's really hard.
Yeah.
Really
It's
hard.
hard. It's hard.
I
It
did
is
it.
hard.
I walked past the mirror on the way to sitting with you guys now, and I noticed you called them 11s, and I'm like,
Mhm.
what am I going to do about that? It's like
Yeah.
it's constantly, no, well, pun intended, in your face. It's like literally
Right.
in your face all the time, and everyone's perfect AI version of themselves is on display. So I don't know. It's fun. My daughter, my 21-year-old daughter, lives here. She goes to college, which is directly across the street from our house,
Oh,
and
that's fun.
she wears these, like, I don't know, collagen eye patches under her
Mhm.
eyes
Yeah.
many mornings. And she had to run to the store to get something for breakfast. And she's like, I have to keep these on for 20 more minutes, but I don't want to wait to go to the store to do this whole thing. And I'm like, well, why don't you just go to the store with the eye patches on? And she's like, nah, people do that. And I was like, well, that's kind of weird. I wouldn't go to the store with the eye patches on. And she's like, well, no, I'm going to do it. I'm going to just do it and see if I can tolerate the experience of being judged in the store. So she did this whole experiment, and I loved it because we do have to practice, like, building our nervous system's capacity to hold judgment and reactivity and discomfort. So that, like, she came back, she had her bananas and her oatmeal or whatever it is, and she's like, I survived, like, hooray. And it was, we kind of had a little happy dance about it, because I think it's a really important exercise for us to have, to go be about our imperfect selves out in the world.
Gosh, this
Yeah.
next generation is so far ahead of us because at
So
21 years
far.
old, I would not have had the awareness to understand what that discomfort would have been
Yeah.
and what she was working through. And maybe it's a benefit of having you as her mom and being a coach, but like, gosh, this next generation is so far ahead of us, I feel.
Yeah,
I
well,
think so
hopefully
too.
they have a lot, like, coming against them, right? They're really swimming upstream, so they need
At
to be
least they'll be emotionally intelligent.
We'll see.
We shall see. Okay, speaking of coaching, tell us about your coaching and tell us, like, who are you coaching and what are you coaching them on? Or who
Everything
do
we're
you want?
talking everything we're
Yeah,
talking
okay,
about.
love it.
Like, my path has been really windy. So 20 years ago, when I went through my crazy life situation, and I started to see how much we needed authenticity and relationship and community and all that, and I just got on my journey, and I started learning very basic things like mindfulness, like the
Mm,
power of mindfulness and meditation. And I'd been a meditator for already over a decade, but I got deeper into that path. And when I started learning those tools, I was like, well, everyone needs to know this. This is like basic human stuff. And so I started teaching little kids, like 3 and 5 and 7-year-olds, in
love that.
schools. So for a long time, I was teaching in schools, and then I would start getting emails from parents being like, whatever you told Bobby, he's doing it. Can you tell me how to do that? And so I started working with the parents in school communities, and I started to see, oh, actually, they need this more. Like, I could teach their kids all the things, but kids go home and unlearn everything they learn at school anyway. So who really needs it are the adults. So I started working a lot with adults, family systems, couples, parenting. And as I age and my life evolves, my audience evolves, my people evolve. So I work a lot with women in midlife. I work with women through divorce. I work with a lot of men. You said something earlier about
Interesting.
how women have a hard time being vulnerable. That is like 1,000 times harder for men, like,
Yeah,
so much
sure.
harder. And they have very little support systems. And, to be stereotypical, they, like, drink beer and watch sports, and they're not
Yeah,
used to relating to one another. Now, that's stereotypical, but
sure.
it's stereotypical for
But
a reason.
that's also in their, like, that's what they're seeing on how to cope, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's what's in their algorithm, if you will, on, like, how to cope with things.
Yep.
And
That's right. And
anyway,
the more
yeah.
women, more couples I work with, then women would be bringing their men. So I've really just evolved a lot of family system stuff, because what's
Mm,
happening in the couple is trickling down into the family system, which I am all too familiar with. So all of that stuff, a lot of parent kid stuff, a lot of trauma stuff, a lot of addiction stuff. Since I've navigated it all, I have a lot of skills to share with others.
I love, our audience is women predominantly. We always say we have like 3 to 4 male listeners, which has, I think, completely erased at this point. No more men listen. But very honestly, like in my experience and in my sphere and in my circles and things like that, women are doing the work constantly to try to be better. They're doing the work to kind of, improve themselves. But if they have a male partner in their life, the partner is not necessarily the one doing that or spearheading that. And
Right.
so the fact that you like they might do it because, Cheryl's talked about this before where like Alex will come to the couples therapy because you've set it up, but him going on his own is a little bit trickier to get him there, right, Cheryl? I don't mean to speak for
Mhm.
him, but like,
Mhm.
in my own
Everything you're
marriage,
doing is because I'm dragging him along, that we are
right.
doing this. And he is open to it because he loves me and he values our relationship and these things are important to me. And so like he's doing it for me. He's not doing it for him. He is
Right.
getting benefits out of it for himself, but it is not his endeavor.
Yeah, so to hear that, so I am like, oh my God, what a benefit to women that you're helping men. You know what I mean? That's like, that really is important. And so, how do these guys, are they coming to you from
Well,
women for the most part?
here's what's interesting. Yes, there are,
Okay.
just like you were talking about Cheryl, like Alex. Did I get the name right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Alex is coming for you. Like I feel like we're sort of the honey, and they're like, you attract more bees with honey. How's that saying go?
Yeah.
More bees with honey than vinegar.
Something like that. Yep. And so, what I'm learning is that our men want to please us so much more than we realize, and they have zero
Hmm.
tools, zero guidance, zero understanding of how to do so. They feel very frustrated and they kind of feel helpless and powerless. All they know how to do because of our patriarchal capitalistic system is they know how to work, they know how to provide, they know how to make money. And, like this is the way they've been conditioned and programmed, and they're feeling lost and disconnected. And I'm finding that more and more, even with young men. I used to do work. I used to work a lot with young people, so I worked with like
Okay.
little kids, 3 and 5, 7 year olds, and then I started working with young adults and young men in particular struggling with alcohol abuse, struggling with drug abuse, struggling with porn addiction, all that kind of stuff. It happens so early because they are being fed that from like 10 years old.
Oh my God.
And we don't even know how subtly it's happening in the system. So they're getting hijacked really early and really soon and getting lost. And then we become their partners and then we start blaming them. Like, what the hell is wrong with you? And you're such an idiot. And why are you doing all these dumb things? And then they get into their guilt shame spiral. And so it just becomes a giant mess. And so they're disconnected from their core, their true self. We're disconnected and we fight. And they're so desperate to actually be in relationship to us. They don't want to be alone. They want us
Right.
so badly. And they're so desperate for guidance on how to get there. And they're simultaneously scared and lost. So
Yeah.
we are what we do draw them in. And once they get here, they're like, oh, hey, this is what I've been needing and missing all along. And they're very like willing. What I'm finding is most men are willing. Now you're going to find lots of resistance in the system, and this is where I do my greatest work is people who are in states of deep resistance and drawing them out of their resistance back into their, you know, hearts. Really, it's a journey back into your heart. But yeah, the men are pretty fun to work with.
I'm glad you think it's fun. I'm glad somebody thinks it's fun. I want to go back to that thing you were talking about with boys. I have a little girl, but I also have 2 boys, and I think a lot of our, not all, but a lot of our listeners are also parents. And I've said this before. Like when I got pregnant with my daughter, who's my oldest, I was like, cool. I know how to raise a really strong, confident woman. No problem, right? When I got pregnant with my first son, I was really scared because I felt a deep responsibility for something I didn't know how to do, right? I was like, how do I raise a son who is confident himself, kind, not a dick, but not like a push, all these things. There was this, I think I've told this story before on that, but when I first got pregnant with Everett, my college had this story come out about how this fraternity had these, hazing of these boys, and it was in the form of like they hired strippers and they were forcing them to do weird stuff with them and blah blah blah. And I was pregnant, and my biggest fear is my biggest fear, but also the thought I had is, how do I raise a son who gets up and walks out of that situation? Because all of those boys, they're 18 those are boys,
They're little boys.
have, for the most part, moms and parents. And I am like, how do I raise a son who's going to say, nah, man, this is messed up. I'm not into this. And
Or
walk
bring
out.
it to current politics, like
Yeah.
someone being called little piggy or a piggy in the middle of a professional
Restaurant. Yeah.
environment and not one person standing up and saying, excuse me, not
This is
acceptable.
not okay. Yeah.
I don't care what
So
your role is. This is not
Yeah.
okay.
Very few people are doing that.
well, how do we do it? Help me.
Well, so
What
I
are
mean,
some tips that you have for parents, like in those situations, like for that?
I love this question. So I have 3 natural born kids, 6 step kids. And my son is my firstborn. And I never had the fears you had until much later when I saw, oh my God, look what I've done. And what I did was I focused on, like, I had ideas. Like, we're all conditioned in our belief systems about the way things should and shouldn't be, the way people should and shouldn't be, the way our daughters and sons should and shouldn't be.
Right.
And I had to go do a deep dive in my own to see what I was creating. And what I ended up creating was a son who was kind of disconnected from himself from a young age, where he had, my mind is all over the place right now. He did that whole thing that you're talking about. Went to college, and it was very difficult for him to say no. It was very difficult for him to, like 95% of people. What
Yeah.
you're pointing at is, how do I raise someone who stays aligned with their values,
Right.
and has the courage to stand in those values when faced with so much pressure from the outside world? Like, that's exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Piggy,
exactly.
why isn't anyone saying stop it? Because everyone's afraid. And I think that the thing that I love, that I teach the most, is how to discern when you're in states of fear driven by your ego versus when you're in the presence of your true power from love, right?
Mhm.
And it's really hard. It's hard to go anti-culture. It's hard to stand in your power when everyone else is doing something different. And as a woman, I had to remember to protect my son's vulnerability. That was my
Mm.
biggest job, and that wasn't what I did for a long, long time. What I did was I sort of punished him when he made bad choices.
Mhm.
When he got off the reservation, and he, like, made the choices that weren't aligned with what I believed were our core values. And what I had to remember was I had to trust that I set those values in place early enough, and that they were strong enough that he would always come back to them, even when he got off the reservation,
Mhm.
without me going in there and shaming him and making it worse, which is what I was guilty of doing. I'm like, what's wrong with you? And why did you do that? Well, of course they do that. But I instead had to learn to be the reminder of love, of, like, oh
Mm.
wow, how did that feel for you when you got off the reservation, when you made that choice? So that I was a soft place for him to land, and
Mm.
not a, like, second bullet in his experience of shame. And I think I spent, unfortunately, a fair amount of time shaming him unconsciously. Like, I wasn't
Sure.
doing, I was, like, being a good parent, like,
Right,
that
right.
whole thing. But I think if we really kind of know, like, that's not what he needed. Now, you might have a kid who does need that. You have to be in your own discernment and strong enough to know, what does this person, what does this energy system need to get back connected to themselves?
Right.
And I had to correct that. And I started correcting it when I started realizing what I did. He was probably closer to 20. And it
Okay.
took me a long time. He's 27 now, and we're still working it out. Like, and I didn't like sit down with him and say, this is what we're doing now. I changed my behaviors. And I remember the first time I did it. And it was a conscious choice. He had said something, and I typically would have a reaction that would be rooted in judgment and criticism. And this time I didn't. And he just stopped in his tracks. I remember he was standing in the kitchen. He's looking around. He goes, this is different. Why are you saying that? Like, I was really, so he had a real noticing. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I kind of just played dumb, but I had to replant all these seeds that I had to undo of years of doing. So my advice to anyone listening is like, be gentle with yourself. I didn't do a great job, but I had to first be gentle with myself and not beat myself up for doing what I thought I was doing right.
Right.
And then slowly undo.
We hope you enjoyed part 1 of this discussion. We'll see you next week when we wrap it up with part 2.
That's a wrap. Thank you for joining us on this journey of laughter, life, and growth.
And remember, you're not alone on this path to success. We're right here with you every step of the way.
Please remember to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And if you found value in today's conversation, we'd be thrilled if you would leave us a review on your favorite platform. Your feedback means the world to us.
And don't forget to share this podcast with your friends, family, and anyone who could use a good laugh and some practical insight into navigating the challenges and triumphs of our minds, body, soul, and business.
Remember, we're doing this right.